Hello everyone, my name is Anna Jett and I'm going to be spelling out my 2024 TBR for you, both physical and books I do not have, but here we go. First and foremost, I've never been like a big reader. I watched a lot of these videos with my sister who is a big reader, and they're talking about their books that they've read in 2023 and it's like over 100 books, and I'm like, how is that possible? I read like 13 books last year and that felt like a feat because I was able to do, I didn't space it out to do one a month. Like I went on a beach vacation with my family, ended up reading like 4 books in that week, but I kind of go through quite long reading slumps and then I get back into it and I read like 4 books at once. So I'm trying to get back into it so that I can consistently read, and I set goals for myself for the year. See in my bullet journal, my 2024 TBR written down so far. Obviously that list is going to grow, but that's what we have for now. And then in some of my goals, well, one, I also made a spread where I drew out some books on a bookshelf, and then I'm going to write them in as I go for each book that I've read, and then reviews. I want to read at least 24 books this year, so that's a little less than double of what I read last year, but I think I can do it because I set myself up to achieve goals as obviously 24 books in a year is 2 books per month, which means 1 book every 2 weeks-ish. Some months are a little longer than 4 weeks, but generally speaking, 1 book every 2 weeks, so half a book in a week. And I think that that's doable. And I also set the goal that I need to read for at least 15 minutes every day. So, and before bed, preferably, and so I can avoid my phone before I go to sleep. Doesn't that sound typical? But yes, that's what's in here. I'll be going over the TBR that I wrote down, and some of the books on that TBR are right here. So I'm going to go through them. All right, now let's go through my stack of books. So first and foremost, I am filming this on January 4th. Yes, January 4th, 2024. So the year has already started. I have finished a book already. I saw this at Target, at any bookstore so often, and the premise sounded so interesting, but I never bought it for myself, and my older sister got it for me for Christmas, who is a big reader and all of that. So thank goodness. So this book is In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. I finished it last night. I was on page, like, I think I read the first 50 pages over the course of like 2 days because I was only had time to read like right before bed. So I read 25 and then 50 and then stopped. And then last night, so I was on page 50. I did not want to put it down. The beginning was a little slow and a little like, so the premise of this book is this very like type A girl. Her life is, it goes by the numbers, everything. She's very methodical about everything. She's a corporate lawyer, and she and her boyfriend are now engaged. And after the night of her engagement, also that's not a spoiler, it literally says it on the back of the book, they get engaged, and the night of their engagement she falls asleep, and when she wakes up the next morning, she's for an hour 5 years in the future. And when she's 5 years in the future, she wakes up in a different apartment with a different man around her and a different ring on her finger. So it's like, what's going on? And then, yeah, so that's kind of the premise, and then she comes back to her time, and it kind of is, how do you move forward knowing that? This book, I honestly didn't really know what I expected out of this book. I was thinking like 13 going on 30 kind of vibe, you know, like going ahead in your future and then coming back, but this book got really sad, really meaningful all at once. A lot of people have rated it low, but I think it's because they go in with the expectation it's supposed to be a romance, and it just, there are romance elements, of course, but that's just not, this book meant like so much to me. 5 stars. If a book tears me apart like this one did, where I sobbed for the last 50 pages, and I mean sobbed, ugly cried, my eyes were puffy and everything for the last 50 pages, it achieves its job. Now we have The Daily Stoic. This is like a daily devotional with elements of stoicism in it. So this is just meditations. There are 366, which is perfect because this year is a leap year, of wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. And I'm a runner, and I see all of the big marathoners read this book every day, and I was like, I gotta get this book. So obviously I will read this each devotional at a time over the course of the year, but it is something I will be reading this year. And I'm realizing now that I have not read my devotional for this year. Good entry. Okay, now we're moving on. Okay, so this book, The Rehearsals, is actually, I found this in a Books A Million with my sister when we were shopping. I was like, I'm not gonna buy anything. I ended up buying 2 books that day, but this one was only like $7, and then the other one I got discounted because I had a little bit of damage on it, so that was like $5, and I was like, I think I have to get it. So I got this book. It sounds super cute. It's about this couple who has like a really great relationship. They're getting married and everything is going super well until they have a horrible rehearsal dinner. And that day, they're then stuck in a time loop over and over and over again. And I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And it's just kind of like in the time loop, what happens, they're stuck in a time loop and everything. And it sounds just like a super cute rom-com. And this is going to be the second book that I start this month. I'll probably start it later today. I might save it. I'm going home back to DC on Saturday. Today is Thursday, so I kind of want to save this for the plane because I feel like it's going to be a super quick read. We'll see though. I'll probably start it tonight though. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. This book, obviously, we know. I love Emily Henry. I've read 2 of her books so far. This will be my 3rd. I'm planning to read this in February as kind of a cutesy little, well, I mean, I don't know. In 5 years, I thought it was going to be cutesy and ended up tearing me to shreds, but I don't think this one will tear me to shreds. But we know, book lovers, Emily Henry, love Emily Henry. My favorite of hers is People We Meet on Vacation, which I feel like is kind of a hot take. I love Beach Read too. I rated Beach Read a 4 stars and I rated People We Meet on Vacation 5 stars, so we'll see. I really liked Beach Read. There was just one aspect of it that I was just like, I don't really like this side, what was her name, like Sonia, I think, because we didn't know enough about her, and I was like, I get that we don't know enough about her. Okay, I'm going on a rant, but I'm excited to read Book Lovers, finally. And this was the one I got. You can see it has a little bit of damage on the top, but I was like, I'll still buy her, she's cute. Next book on my list is Atomic Habits. Everyone and their mother owns or has read this book. I'm so excited to read it. I attempted to read this, like, I think it was last year because my older sister owns it, but she wouldn't let me take it with her, or I just like put it down because I wasn't in the headspace to read a self-help book. And I just hear everyone talk about it and I really want to read it. So I'll read this over the course of the year. I might start it in like March or something, because usually Q1, like January through March, is like a really tough time, I think, for everyone. I had a really hard time last year in Q1, so I'm gonna read this to help myself come out of it, I think, or I might start it next month. We'll see, but I'm excited to read it. So I finally have my own copy because I got it for Christmas. Next, we have some books that my mother gifted to me for Christmas, so I'd like to read them. My favorite genre is historical fiction, as you will see through some of these books. And honestly, I'm looking at them now and I can't even remember what all of them are about, but they're on my TBR because my mother gave them to me, and I like to read my physical TBR if I can, rather than going to buying new books. So here we go. First is The Yellow Bird Sings, I think, and this is by Jennifer Rosner. I just realized I had not been saying many authors. The Rehearsals is by Annette Christie. Atomic Habits is James Clear. The Daily Stoic is Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. And then Book Lovers is Emily Henry, and In 5 Years is Rebecca Sturl, which I want to read One Italian Summer. And I think it was like The Dinner List is her other book. And then Expiration Dates comes out this year, so I'll probably add those to my TBR as well, but we're going through the physical TBR first. But yeah, The Yellow Bird Sings by Jennifer Rosner. This book sounds so sad. It reminds me kind of if Life is Beautiful, the Italian film made during World War II. Very heavy topics, but it sounds like a beautiful story and one that I will cry when I read. I majored in history in college. I took a lot of World War II related classes, and this takes place in World War II. So like a lot of people with historical fiction, I tend to gravitate toward that era. One of my favorite historical novels, or historical fiction novels, is All the Light We Cannot See, another by Anthony Doerr, another World War II. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. It was the one that I immediately gravitated towards. Next we have Hannah's War by Jan Eliasberg. This one sounds really good. It's also Berlin 1938, New Mexico 1945, two different timelines. But it's essentially about Austrian physicist Dr. Hannah Weiss is on the verge of the greatest scientific triumph of the 20th century, splitting the atom. And so she is also a Jewish woman and living under the Third Reich, so her research is belittled, overlooked, and eventually stolen by her German colleagues. And so it's her trying to navigate that. And then you go New Mexico 1945, and you have Major Jack Delaney arrived in the New Mexican desert with a mission to catch a spy. Someone in the top secret nuclear lab, apologies, I cannot talk today, at Los Alamos has been leaking encoded equations to Hitler's scientists. Chief among Jack's suspect is the brilliant and mysterious Hannah Weiss, an exiled physicist lending her talent to J. Robert Oppenheimer's mission. All signs point to Hannah as the traitor, but over the 3 days of interrogation, as he filters her lies from the truth, Jack will realize they have much more in common than one another bargained for. That just sounds super cool. I can't believe I forgot the synopsis of this. This sounds so interesting, so excited to read that. Maybe it'll be like a March, April, May book. I don't know. I feel like my TBR is like, this is my yearly TBR, but I write everything down and then I go by mood. There's another like book YouTuber who also says this, and she's like, I'm a mood reader, like I go by seasons for my TBRs. I'm like, that's so smart. So I'm just going through my TBR, and usually in my notebook when I write the books, I say like, I'm reading it this month if I have a certain strong feeling about it. Like February will be a lot of rom-coms, there'll be a lot of romance and stuff like that, but I'm also planning on reading Iron Flame in February, so we'll see. Next book I have here is The Ballad of Hattie Taylor by Susan Anderson. First off, this cover, beautiful. It takes place in Mattawa, Oregon. The turn of the century offers, so we're in a different time period, y'all, not more World War II. A new kind of frontier for women, a vast and exciting range of possibilities to a point. It's time for change, and no one is more eager to embrace new paths than free-spirited outsider Hattie Taylor. If only she could embrace Jake Murdoch too. Jake can't remember a time when he was so confused. Hattie is off limits. The provoking Spitfire is under his mother's protection, his protection. And he has always belonged to another, but now with the passing of his wife, Jake feels something shift between them. Frustratingly aware of Hattie as a woman, he struggles with new feelings, new questions, new desires. But when a desperate decision born of good intentions turns out to have ugly repercussions, Hattie confronts a cruel reality she can no longer ignore. The truth of where women really stand and the actions men take to keep them there. To navigate her new world of tainted law and privileged order, Hattie will draw on the strength of the women around her, and Jake will learn what it truly means to support the woman he loves. Now, I am actually excited to read this. It's a different time period. It's like strong women and like men supporting them, but also not. So we'll see where this goes. I mean, just look at that cover. It is so beautiful. I feel like I'm excited to read it. Maybe this will be like a June, July read when I'm like hopefully like at the beach or something. Okay, last but not least in this stack is I'd Give Anything by Marissa de los Santos. I'll read the description for you because I cannot remember. Okay, 1997. Jenny Beal is 18, irreverent, funny, and fearless, with a brother she adores and a circle of friends for whom she would do anything. Yet in the span of one terrible night, Jenny is forced to leave her carefree adolescence behind her. A tragedy robs her of the things she cherishes most, her best friends, the boy she loves, even her adventurous spirit, seemingly forever. That night, while the town cheers on the high school football team, someone sets the school's auditorium on fire. The father of one of Jenny's best friends dies fighting the blaze. While many in town believe a notoriously troubled local teen set the fire, Jenny makes a shattering discovery that casts blame on the person she trusts most in the world. Jenny vows to never tell anyone, but despite her attempts to bury the secret, it looms large, isolating her and leaving her friendships in ruins. 20 years after the fire, Jenny has become an expert at playing it safe. Married to a solid, predictable man, she lives in her hometown where she raises their adored daughter, 15-year-old Avery, and cares for her difficult, ailing mother, Adela. When Jenny's husband, Harris, becomes embroiled in a scandal, her carefully controlled life crumbles, and just when she believes she's regaining her bearings, the secret she's kept for 20 years emerges and threatens to destroy her hopes for the future. That just sounds pretty good. I read A Flicker in the Dark a couple weeks ago, and it was really good. And this kind of reminded me of it a little bit, like 20 years past the big event and dealing with the repercussions, so it sounds pretty good. That was my physical TBR for the month. I have some more books at home, but I am not home right now, so that's what I have. I'm gonna go through the list that I have here. I mistakenly did not write authors down on this book, so I'll put like a picture of the book somewhere over here, and you'll see the author there. If I remember it, I'll say it, but for some reason I didn't write it down. I think probably because I wanted to save space, because this list will grow a lot out through the year, let's be real. Okay, so in 5 years, cross that off, read it for January. Another book that I want to read is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have been trying to read just any Jane Austen book. It's been on my New Year's goals list for like the past couple of years. And my issue isn't even that like I don't want to read the book. I own like 4 Jane Austen books. I just haven't picked them up. And like they're not even that long. I want to read Pride and Prejudice because it is like the 2005 movie version, you know. The 2005 movie version is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Keira Knightley. I think she does such a good job. And I own the book, so I'm gonna read it this month. And one of my friends back home wants to do like a Pride and Prejudice movie night, and I was like, let me read the book first and then we'll do it. I will force myself. Not even force myself, because I love the movie. The book is probably just as good. And I also, like, I want to read Jane Austen. I want to read Jane Austen. So next on that list, following similar situation, is Persuasion. I want to watch the movie. It looked so good. I've heard mixed reviews of it, but it looked good. And I was like, wait, but I have to read the book first. I own the book. Read the book, watch the movie. Next on this list, Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I read Fourth Wing. I finished it on New Year's Eve. That was my 13th book of the year. It was so good, 5 stars. The beginning of it was a little slow, but as soon as I got past like the first 100 pages with all like setting everything up, I was like locked in, and I only ever wanted to read. Like I didn't want to do anything else. I feel like that's what brought me into the new year on such a good foot, wanting to read so much. I have a lot of high expectations. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. People either love it or they hate it, but I'm excited to read it. And I heard that Rebecca Yarros is working on the 3rd book. She just started working on it, so that's exciting. Another book on my list is Crying in H Mart. I cannot remember the author at the top of my head. I've been wanting to read this book for so long. Whenever I see on Instagram like a book to read based on your zodiac sign or a book to read based on blah blah blah, Crying in H Mart always comes up. I've heard it is an incredible book, and I'm so excited to read it. Next book on my list, The Secret History. That is a book that I am reading in a book club with my older sister and one of her friends. Next book on this list is Beneath a Scarlet Sky, another book I've been wanting to read for so long, another World War II historical fiction book. It sounds incredible. I can't wait to read it. This next one, Me Before You by, I want to say it's Jojo Myers. I have had this book for about a year and a half now. Owned it. I got it at a used bookstore, and I'm planning to read it in February. It sounds like it's going to be so good and heart-wrenching, which is my favorite type of book. Different from In 5 Years. I know going into it that I think it's gonna be that it's heartbreaking. In 5 years, I had no idea. So yeah, excited for that. Next book on my list is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. All the Light We Cannot See is one of my favorite historical fiction books of all time. 5-star read, so good. I'd like to reread that this year, and then watch the show, or I just might watch the show because I mean, I love the book, so it's okay. I might watch the show and then reread the book to like tell the differences a little bit more discreetly, because I read All the Light We Cannot See like 4 years ago. But yeah, so good. I cannot wait to read Cloud Cuckoo Land. I love Anthony Doerr's writing. I'm so excited. The next book, Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is another one I've been wanting to read for so long. I actually got it from the library last year, and then I just didn't end up reading it, and I was so frustrated when I had to return it. Next book, Happy Place by Emily Henry. Everyone and their mother says that this is a 5-star read. I feel like I need to read it. I love Emily Henry. I'm going to read Book Lovers in February. Happy Place will probably be like a June, summer, May, early summer, late spring type of read. I know that she's also releasing a new book this year, I think. So I'd also like to read that because it's Emily Henry. Funny Story. Yes, she is. I would like to read that this year as well. I need to add it to my list. Next is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I think it's Kristen Hanna. Yeah, I've heard another thing. Everyone and their mother, 5 stars. historical fiction. I need to read it. Okay. Lessons in Chemistry. I really want to read this book. I've been wanting to read this book. I especially want to read this book now that there is a TV show or a movie with Brie Larson, because then I'm like, oh my god, I have to read it because I want to watch the show. It becomes ever more urgent. It becomes so much more urgent when you have film on screen, something, an adaptation, if you will, to watch. You know what I mean? Next is Kindred. I came across this book kind of randomly. So it's about this woman, this Black woman who's living in the present time. I can't remember where the present is for her. And then all of a sudden she goes back in time to the American South before slavery was abolished, and it's her like navigating it. And I know that there's a movie. I think I saw a movie clip on TikTok, and people in the comments were like, oh, this is a book called Kindred, and I was like, oh my god, I have to read this. I love time travel books. It just sounds amazing and wonderful, and I can't wait to read it. We have A Thousand Splendid Suns next. I've just heard such amazing things about this book, and I'd really like to read it. Next is The House on the Cerulean Sea. Same type of deal, heard amazing things, and just want to read it. Next is The Silent Patient. I've wanted to read this past October and didn't get around to it, so this will be an October read, probably. Thinking About History. This is a nonfiction book, and I own this book. I got it for Christmas last year. Last year not being 2023, being 2022. And I've been asking this book for forever. I studied history in college, and particularly like public history was my route, like museums and everything. And oh my gosh, I just feel like I have to read this book. Like, I just have to, you know what I mean? The next book is The Rose Code, another World War II historical fiction novel. I did a report in college on Bletchley Park and the code breaking operation during World War II, and this book was like being sold at Bletchley Park, and because I ended up going for this class that I took, and I've just heard it's so good. I own the book. I need to read it. Just dropped my notebook. Next is Little Women. November. I gotta read it. It's a fall book, and the only thing I know about Little Women is that one episode of Friends where Rachel and Joey are like sharing books or swapping books, and Rachel gives him Little Women and Joey gives Rachel what was it? The Shining, I think. And like Rachel spoils the ending for Joey, and I'm like, that's the only thing I know about it. I don't know anything else. I know that there's a musical. I love musicals. The movie from 2019, I really want to see the movie, but I'm like, I have to read the book first, so I probably won't get around to reading Little Women until the fall, because it just like, once again, mood reading. I think it's a fall book, knowing absolutely nothing about it other than the aesthetics of the 2019 movie. The Ex-Hex, I own this book. I wanted to read it last October. I'm gonna read it this October. It's a fall book, obviously. I don't think that there's any question there. Next one, Remarkably Bright Creatures, which I actually have on my iPad. Look at this cover. She's beautiful. It's probably going to be like an April-May book because it's giving summer, it's giving spring, you know what I mean? That's kind of the vibe there. Next one, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I've heard so many great things about this book, and I have to read it at this point. Next is The Unmaking of June Farrow. I really want to read this as well. I watched, I think it was Haley Pham review this book, and she said like it was close to a 5-star, but not exactly a 5-star, but it's also like time travel romance right up my alley. So I'm excited to read it. Next one is Five Survive. I think it's Holly Jackson, and it just sounds super cool. Everything taking place over the course of one night. It just sounds super exciting. I love a thriller book. I don't have many thrillers on this list, but I'll be in a used bookstore and come across a thriller and then buy 5 of them. So there we are. Next I have One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like Taylor Jenkins Reid and Emily Henry, to me, it's like every book I read of theirs will either be 4 or 5 stars, somewhere between 4 and 5 stars. So good. So good. I love her writing. I mean, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, Malibu Rising, all such great books. Malibu Rising was like a 4 to me, the other 2 were 5s. No doubt. I cannot wait for The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo adaptation. It's gonna be so good. And the last one I have on here is, or actually no, there's one I didn't write down on here. I think it's Love in Other Words or in Other by Christina Lauren. I loved The Unhoneymooners. It was so cute and funny. And so I have to read this other book. I've just heard, like, everyone who's read it says that they give it a 5-star, and I really want to read it. It'll probably be a February read, so I'll be getting that either on my iPad or come across in a used bookstore. Last book on my list is The Housemaid. This one sounds super cool, just like everyone says it's super thrilling. Another thriller book that I'd really like to read. So yeah, that's my TBR for 2024. We'll see what I actually get around to reading and how I'm going to organize it going through the year. I honestly have no idea. I know my January TBR, and like some books I know, like I'm going to read it this month or that month because it's just that mood reading, you know? But other than that, we'll fill in the blanks. I've seen a lot of people pick things out of a jar for their TBRs. Maybe I'll do something like that. But yeah, I'm excited. The goal is 24 books. I'd like to read more than that, but I just feel like 24 is attainable. So that's what we're going for. Okay, hello. So I'm coming to you several hours later. I'm about to leave for a run. I was going through my mother's book cabinet. I really want to read a new series this year, and that one is ACOTAR. I also really want to read Throne of Glass. I've heard some really good things about it, but I'm a little intimidated by it, especially the one book that's like a tandem read or something like that. Also, I mean, I just gotta know what's going on in this series. This is also on my TBR, so I mean, just look how beautiful it is. So just had to share. Now back to whatever I was saying right after that clip. Subscribe to watch me try and attempt to read all of these books. We'll see where I am by the end of the year, but thanks for watching.